Talking Aloud. I'm joined by Mason, who has worked in the youth department for years, and he spends most of his time upstairs in the adult circulation as of late. So Mason, I have to tell you, is a great resource for any kind of reader's advisory, but also any kind of pop culture advisory in general. I think a lot of people come see me because I've convinced everyone that I, am this like beacon of pop culture. So I would, I'll do some maritime metaphors here. So, if pop culture were bodies of water, I would go find every single stream and like dip my toe into each stream and kind of know what temperature they are. And this is just my impression of you, Mason. You can correct me, but I would say Mason will go out to any pop culture lake, row out to the middle, and just dive in with like weights tied around his ankles and just deep dive into very, very not just obscure stuff, but whatever it is that strikes your fancy. So I think in a lot of ways,
I'm interested. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for some things, I would say you are like the authority nationwide or worldwide about something. And what we're talking about today is Heartbeeps, which is available on Hoopla. Hoopla is a streaming service where you can watch videos, listen to audiobooks, read ebooks with your Edwardsville Public Library card. And this movie Heartbeeps is something that when I saw it, I'm like, why is that on Hoopla? 1. 2, has Mason seen this? 3, Mason and I should both watch this and talk about it on Talking Aloud. So Mason, number 1, sorry. Number 2, thank you for joining me. Heartbeeps, starring Andy Kaufman, Bernadette Peters, and then a whole slew of, side characters that are actually very recognizable faces. Randy Quaid.
Yeah.
Who else do we have? I mean, that one guy, the other guy, whose name I didn't look up, but his face from everything.
I remember looking up the list. I'm honestly really bad at remembering actors when I watch movies a lot of times. It's always, but it is. I remember seeing the list of names, like, oh yeah, that guy was in that thing I'd heard of.
What is his name? I'm not going to spend the time looking at my phone to figure out what his name was. One thing I will do though, while I am on my phone, I should have done this from the get-go, is I usually monitor our Facebook feed for any kind of comments. If someone has managed to watch Heartbeats at any point in their lifetime, jump right in. If you want to share anything else about. Okay, so Mason, I think you made a good question, and I don't think you had an answer for it, but you said, "Who is this movie for?" So start there. Yeah, what did you think? Just lay it all out.
So the basic premise here, just to get that over with, is Andy Kaufman and Bernadette Peters are robots in love, basically, and they're on the land. They're kind of on the lam from this factory that wants to reprogram them. But like, I was watching this movie, and it was like, it felt too dumb for an adult movie to really be for adults and stuff like that. And apparently they made this because it was like, well, kids like Star Wars, they must like robots. Let's make a movie about robots. It was part of the thought process for making this movie. But at the same time, I'm not sure if I'd want my imaginary children to be watching this movie. Like, I'm not sure I was really comfortable with like that. And a lot of the humor is just robots having these really matter-of-fact, logical discussions about marital things or relationship jokes. It's like they took this trope from a love story and laid it out really, really mechanically, in a sense, like
this feels in a way like it's deleted scenes or like workshopping material for Short Circuit or something. None of these jokes land at all.
No.
There's a lot of attempted humor. I mean, you've got Andy Kaufman, you better try to have something humorous, or there's got to be some joke to it. And even the movie itself isn't really a joke. It's so sufficient production-wise, and it's not even one of those movies that are like so bad it's good, or fun to watch as a lark. It's one of those movies where you really scratch your head. I should say that if you decide to suffer through this, it's really it's an important movie because it's so weird. Andy Kaufman is such an interesting character, but it's only 79 minutes long. So whether or not you can spare 79 minutes of your life is one thing. What I'm not sure is this worth one of your 5 Hoopla monthly credits? So, I mean, if you have
No.
one credit left and it's, you know, the absolute last day of the month, maybe click borrow if you're that curious.
Nope, 7 out of 5. It's a masterpiece.
Let me ask you, Mason. I know we're in a world where it's very easy to just binge watch a whole bunch of things, because while we have our TV going or whatever we're watching our shows and movies on, we also have our cell phone out, or we're knitting, or we're doing whatever that distracts us from active viewing. So I'm just asking you, when you were watching this movie, were you sitting at your chair, just attentive, chewing popcorn, just watching this movie, or were you kind of doing other things at the same
I was
time?
legitimately taking notes for this one, just trying to figure out like what was going on and what did I want to talk, like what would you talk about with this movie? Like it was like, okay, I got to write something down here. And that was like one of the big questions was actually who was probably the biggest question, but I had for it because so I was intentionally watching this movie and taking the time out of a Monday evening to just watch to see what was going on.
I appreciate you doing that.
Oh,
I don't think
I'm
that was
dedicated.
time you weren't paid for.
I'm dedicated to my profession here.
And it's time you're never getting back. I'm curious what some of the notes you took, and I'm also curious, hopefully these are in your notes, what were some of the nits you picked? Because I found myself nitpicking just the logic when you have, you know, these androids, these robots.
Yeah.
There's so much in the way of poor writing that they didn't even factor in of, like, why would a robot need to look at their battery in their arm to know how much charge they have left? Also, why did we not think of the battery life until it was narratively convenient near the end of the second act? You know, what were some of the nitpicks you had? Some of the notes you had.
There were some really, if you watch it on a full screen, there's some really wonderful matte backdrops in this movie that are just very like some of the outdoor scenes are very obviously like painted, like just matte painting with like potted trees in front of them or something, which was strange because this was not a cheap movie. It couldn't have been. I don't think it was a cheap movie to make. It looks, and that like a lot of these movies, I wanted, gosh, what did I have to? Yeah, why were the robots having to look at the battery? Why did nobody think that these robots might be, like, they're arguing basically, are robots even sentient, or the human characters are just like, I'm telling you, they're thinking for themselves now, and it's in this wider world. Now, are these the only two who can think, or just the other? No, because I guess the stand-up comedy robot, the vaudeville bot, or whatever that you want to call it.
Yeah, every single robot that we can see is sentient in some capacity or another. I mean, Bill, who's not really, or Phil. It's Phil.
Oh yeah,
it seemed like
baby.
With Andy Kaufman, we'll talk about the makeup in a minute, but the way that his makeup was done, it's almost like he couldn't even distinguish like Bill from Phil. Like he couldn't articulate well enough. But this little robot I saw, he was voiced, whatever voice there was, by Jerry Garcia. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I know, that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I thought he would have been voiced by an ARP 2600 or something like that, just like
just uncredited by the director or something. Yeah. And speaking of synthesizer, our composer is who?
John Williams.
Yes. Why? Why is it John Williams?
I don't know. I can't complain about this. The score was not. It was fine. I can't complain about that.
I knew it was John Williams the entire time, but I knew that before going in, but I didn't even think of the music at all until like the very end when their batteries were dying and they were together out in the field, and it sounded like. It sounded like, since it's all synth, it sounded like Blade Runner Vangelis. Is that how you pronounce the name? Vangelis of Aphrodite's Child fame. But
go for Aphrodite's Child first. The Chariots of Fire, man.
Of course, yes. We don't have to mention Vangelis's filmography; it speaks for itself. But yeah, there's so much about this movie. It has a very high budget.
Yes.
Has probably the most renowned composer in all of film music history. I mean, name someone that is more recognizable than John Williams and his themes. I mean, some composers are more prolific per se.
The closest to, if anyone is going to compete with Williams, it'd probably be Ennio Morricone. But
I mean, his stuff. Yes.
No, I will agree. John Williams is definitely a household name.
Right. I mean, when you have the theme from Jaws, I mean, his uh, Man Without a Name trilogy, the
Mhm.
theme. I mean, that exists outside of those movies. And so, but anyway, John Williams is top three.
Yes.
And then this is clearly an expensive movie, and the makeup was
Yes.
nominated. This was the first year that they had Academy Awards for Best Makeup, and it was in the running. Um, I didn't see anywhere that said the amount of time, but surely
It
the
took
makeup, especially for Andy Kaufman, had to take hours.
it took hours. Bit of trivia is actually the makeup artist who did The Wiz.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess he just gets a special achievement for kind of off-putting makeup jobs in movies. And he was trying to find like a new way to do the makeup, and he's using like gelatin a lot. So apparently, like they had to reapply it multiple times to keep these characters in their makeup faces.
Yeah, for the early '80s, I had to say makeup was decent. I mean, he definitely was convincing. It's basically like a Max Headroom look he's got going on,
Yes.
but Andy Kaufman and his like the thing about the guy who played, I can't think of the name, the guy who played Max Headroom, is he had, a very square jaw, very
Mhm.
gaunt face that really lent itself to just having this kind of fake skin look to it. Whereas, you know, Andy Kaufman had, cheeks like mine, where just like, there's a double chin going on there and there's these like jowls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked really weird in that makeup, but you could tell the makeup was there's a lot going on with it. I
It was
don't know.
expensive. I don't know if I liked it. Like I remember watching it and scribbling it down. I was like, this would have been better if the robots were a little more like R2D2-ish or something, looking more of a boxy or abstract robot. Probably would have improved the movie. But then I also realized that I was just talking about Wall-E, and it was kind of
Hmm.
made me sad because I wasn't watching Wall-E instead. I,
Yeah, I mean that did it a lot better. But I mean, I don't even know what this movie was going for.
like,
Um,
I mean, you
I
have a
mean,
vaudeville robot. They're the two run away with this robot who's doing like these old like vaudeville stand-up routine jokes that are just terrible, and that's his only joke is that he said on I guess it was the funny joke in the movie is when they just kind of comments like, oh, he's been on low effort mode this whole time. Like,
that's
okay,
the one gag that explains why all those other jokes are so bad. But do
because
we
it's
have
just
to suffer through 75 minutes before that to know?
75 minutes of Take My Wife Please. Yeah,
I mean, it really was just like Rodney Dangerfield meets Groucho Marx
I
meets I don't know what.
was speaking to the cast. I was surprised it wasn't Rodney Dangerfield. I honestly thought it was a cigar smoking Rodney Dangerfield robot until I looked at it.
Yeah, Jack
Oh,
Carter, which I'm not familiar with Jack Carter. I think he's a little bit before our
another
time.
vaudeville comedian apparently. But
Hmm.
yeah, I had to look it up. That wasn't Rodney. I thought it was just a Rodney Dangerfield robot the whole time. Like,
Yeah. So here, the 1980s, the
mhm.
movies from the 1980s. There's lots of robots, and everyone had a different idea of what the robots would do for
Yeah.
us. Though Bernadette Peters' character is basically a poolside robot, which is what you see
Mhm.
in is it Rocky 3 or Rocky 2, Rocky
Oh
3,
yeah,
where you have that robot that's just bringing like very
yeah.
conveniently placed like Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke or whatever it was, the product placement. Um, but so they throw these in there, but there's one split second of actual meat and potatoes when it comes to some kind of either satire or some kind of saying something about what role they're playing along with humans, and it's this party that the
Yeah.
Crime Buster Deluxe busts into, and then at the very end, you have these, very, just
Mhm.
affluent people in their, robes, and they're
Mhm.
recovering from just the rubble of the building that Crime Buster blew up. Um, and I think one of them has something to say like, "Oh, it was a stunning affair," or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, it lasted all of 3 seconds, but that's where I almost got any sense of what someone who writes the story. I'm assuming what they intend for this to be a love story between Andy Kaufman and Bernadette Peters.
Yeah.
Um, that didn't land. I mean, what do you think that's what they were going for? Or what do you think worked, or what
I mean,
really missed the?
that's what I got as the plot. That's what I saw. And that's kind of part of the question where because it was such a like the main joke source of humor seems to be like Bernadette Peters is we have not talked for you have not spoken to me for this long. For I require maximum information to operate effectively. Like they're just quarreling, but they're robots, so they're quarreling in a really plain, logical manner.
Yeah, I don't know if they were trying to do honeymooners or
I am
what.
enjoying this. I am enjoying the sunset. It is. Why are you commenting upon it?
Yeah, none of that. I mean, it got old really quickly.
Yeah, like,
Um,
but at the same time, talk about the Crime Buster. Is it a kids movie? Because the Crime Buster just flat out murders a bunny.
yeah.
Like, it's just like,
Well, this came before or right around the introduction of PG-13. So I think it is
yeah,
PG, but I think E.T. and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom really made
yeah.
Hollywood say, okay, we need something besides just PG and R. We need something in the middle here. Maybe this would be PG-13. That murder bot or Crime Buster, yeah, he comes out like full machine guns, explosions.
Yeah.
He's laying all kinds of firepower, artillery, kind of like RoboCop style. Not you
Yeah.
don't. He doesn't. He kills a bunny, but no other humans or
I
no.
mean, it's not graphic. It's not
Yeah.
graphic. It's just implied, but it's still like kids movie.
No, this doesn't work as a kids movie. I don't think it works as a love story at all.
It might have worked with more of the poolside robots if they made it into like a, I don't know, heavy exploration of identity and sentience. Like,
Yeah.
so
So
it
I
almost
guess
would have worked like, like a 1980 whatever version of AI or something. I guess AI didn't work either, but
I mean it was trying some things. I tried to do more than what this is trying to do. Basically,
yeah.
all this has is from the very beginning we get two robots that we understand that they know little about the world they're in because
Yes.
some idiot didn't program to actually have some kind of data bank where they can just put an encyclopedia in their hard drive. Like how would you not know why a rainbow exists? Why like just have an encyclopedia or a dictionary, whatever, in
Yeah.
your search bar, whatever. So it's a very coming of age self-realization thing that these robots are going through, but that gets old. They don't. There's no growth here other than we know they kind of like each other, just because they're right next to each other, and then it's just the heteronormative. Andy Kaufman plays a male character. Bernadette Peters plays a female. Of course, they belong together, and at the very end, they're holding hands. But all the in between is just them fuddling around somewhere outside where they belong. Like they go through the woods, they go through some party, and then they're out in the city streets. And there's it's all kind of just one act, I guess. I said like in a second act, but my brain was thinking this is how long a second act should last. But really, it's just one trek through this town outside of their factory, and there's no growth, there's no development that I think. I mean, what did you think of this?
I'll agree with that. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it. But no, they don't really change as characters. I don't know that they learn anything about themselves or really learn anything about the world. They just kind of walk through the world, kind of.
Yeah, I guess
it's kind of it's vignette or something almost like it's and scene, and then we go to this scene,
and it's almost as though each of those characters is just improvising as they go along. Because why would you come up with all these jokes that land flat, scenes that don't seem to have any meaning? They're just going through these locations. Honestly, the only character that did have an arc that I was actually a little bit touched by, and I'll just spoil it. Don't spend your Hoopla credit on Heartbeeps. How about that? Don't do it. But Catskill, the vaudeville robot, he because he was operating his jokes on low power, he was the one. And I guess they'll have the same size battery or something. All these different models of Android or robot. He's got more battery remaining to get back to their factory, which is where they can basically seek sanctuary. He sacrifices himself to save this little Phil robot, and that's really the only character with any growth or arc. Is our realization that this chucklehead that's been cracking wise the entire movie actually was this, conserving himself and then sacrifice himself for the good of cute little Phil, which is Wally from Wally meets whatever the short circuit guy's name was, Johnny Five.
Yeah.
Johnny number 5. So I don't know. How about instead of
Phil's the owl from Clash of the Titans, I guess.
oh yeah.
But yeah, he's the cute one you're supposed to like.
Maybe we just say this is something not to spin your points on. This is our cautionary tale. I think it's an interesting curiosity because there's so many movies out there that we hear about or we remember because we watched it on, we rented on VHS in the Lark in 1984 or however old we are. We don't have to say, but some things like this really should be lost to time, but it's not. It's here. It's digital. You can watch it at home through Hoopla on your Apple TV or your streaming devices, whatever you've got. And it's remarkable that we can still go back and rediscover this thing that, by all intents and purposes, should have been forgotten, I think.
I mean, if you're with if you're with some friends and you want to do a bad movie night, it's probably, it might be worth it for that. It's not.
This would be an early one, like when you're just ramping up when people still haven't all showed up yet before you get to like the real, because it's not. It's decently done, and nothing is so outrageous. Like good and bad movies, there's something outrageous to them. There's some quality that's just so. This is just an oddity that's boring, I guess.
Yeah, I'm glad I watched it. I really am glad I watched it, just because I do love these kind of this exists movies. Like people just, you bring up a picture, it's like, yeah, Andy Kaufman's a robot in Love, and it's really here's the pictures from the movie.
I guess, some other arc that I went through personally was, I think I lost a little of the mystique around Andy Kaufman watching this, because we had his delivery, the voice he decides to do, which is just the voice that everyone can do when they just talk out of the back of their throat. It's like the Lilo and Stitch voice. It's like, I got talking like Stitch. It's the same voice he did for Taxi. So
it's just his foreign man routine,
and it's nothing he does here is funny. Nothing he does here is special.
It's really sad.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Kaufman is someone who, there is a mystique around. There is this enigmatic, like, oh, is he still alive? Is this all one grand thing that he put on? And this makes you watch it like, okay, he's just some dude. And comedy at the same time that all these other classic comic actors were. I mean, I don't say he's just some dude. I can appreciate a lot of other stuff that Andy Kaufman does. The library, when I first moved here, we had this like it was called like Saturday Night with Andy Kaufman, and he had this whole variety show where he was playing bongos and singing "It's a Small World After All." And then he had this really funny skit where he played a busboy at like a Ryan Steakhouse, and he got more and more overeager to where he would come like bust someone's table like before they were done eating, and it got to the point where as soon as this couple got their food put down on their table, he like took it away from them before they could even take a bite. It was all pretty funny. Anyway,
apparently he wanted to. It's sad because Andy Kaufman wanted to do a Tony Clifton movie.
Like, and to sink that opportunity, I'm guessing.
And he went to the studios and he's like, I want to do a full-length Tony movie with like the Tony Clifton character, and they're like, well, we don't really know if you can sustain a whole movie, so why don't we do another movie first just to see if you can if you can carry a whole film. And then they made this thing instead of the movie he wanted to make, and it's just, so I'm watching this kind of thinking, I could be in that alternate universe right now. I could be in that parallel dimension where they just made a Tony Clifton movie instead. And there's the movie you missed. It's like the alternate universe where Halloween 3 was successful enough that they just carried on with the without Michael Myers. They just did this sort of anthology series.
I mean, since you bring that up, let's just say starting August 21st, it's just Halloween season now, and then the next Talking Louds will be Halloween 3 or something else. But I have to say that Halloween 3, as it went on, was appreciated by people who appreciate anthology that weren't expecting Michael Myers. And so movies have come after that over the last 25, 30 years that really kind of nod and appreciate Halloween 3 for what it was and all the silliness. No one's going back and appreciating this or most of all the other things that Andy Kaufman. I mean, I don't think you can watch Taxi like in earnest right now. I mean, I even feel like I can't watch Man in the Moon, the Jim Carrey. Actually, I don't know. I'm feeling really down on Andy Kaufman. I shouldn't be.
Did they cover this one in Man on the Moon? I don't know if I've seen
I don't
that
think.
one.
I think that
they didn't even bring up the.
No, best left unsaid. Yeah. No, I this is so fresh in my memory that I feel like I'm more down on Andy Kaufman's oeuvre than I should be. But this did take some of the mystique out for me, who, as someone going into this, really kind of regarded him as this kind of real enigma of entertainment, where maybe I would entertain the idea that he's still alive out there somewhere.
This could have been the greatest non-joke he ever told. This could have been or he could have just been phoning it in to get this movie over with that they were trying to make him do.
Yeah, it was probably. I mean, I did read some things that like he's an actor that likes to just ham off camera, offset with friends that he has. I mean, if you look at Adam Sandler, the way he's managed to make his movies for the last 15, 20 years is he just has all his friends go film on a tropical island or resort, and they just film themselves having fun, and then it makes money. It doesn't matter if no one
he doesn't cost anything.
So studios keep paying for it.
Adam Sandler also doesn't cost anything to make his movies. It's he'll take $1 million and make a movie, and then the movie makes $3 million. So it's
yeah. Well, yeah, there's some good Adam Sandler movies. I haven't seen Uncut Gems yet, but definitely don't. I don't plan on watching Grown Ups 2, but there's other good stuff in between.
Yeah.
But instead of finishing on a total down note, is there anything that you would recommend watching on Hoopla or any other streaming services?
Well, this was the first Hoopla credit I've used since I can remember. And it was really funny because they said that if I liked this movie, I would also like She's All That was their first recommendation I had on the list.
That's not that bad. She's All
I
That's
didn't say it was bad. It was just funny. Like I had this list of like, oh, well, if you've watched this, you should watch these. And it's She's All That. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just flipping through, going through now. What We Do in the Shadows. I should say I did a video of Hunt for the Wilder People, one of the Taika Waititi movies that's on here. There's also What We Do in the Shadows, which is a mockumentary about these just inept vampires that all live together, and they're all these different vampire tropes. So it's got Taika Waititi, Jermaine Clement of Flight of the Conchords fame. And there's a TV show made about it now.
I feel like that's been sitting on my watch list for a while.
Oh yeah, watch it. Yeah, if you can appreciate Christopher Guest movies, this is basically a Christopher Guest who was in Heartbeeps. So that's the connection we're going to go with here. We're going to say, start your Halloween season now.
Okay.
Watch What We Do in the Shadows on Hoopla. See a movie that reminds Jacob of Christopher Guest movies. Christopher Guest was that one junkyard scientist that was in Heartbeeps.
Yeah.
But he's also of Waiting for Guffman fame. This is Spinal Tap, of course. Best in Show. Yep. And then a number of there's one from Netflix called Mascots. A number of other just these hilarious mockumentaries, and these movies are really funny. What We Do in the Shadows is really funny. I have never seen the TV show, but I've heard that's good and it's related to the movie. So spin your Hoopla credit. I'm trying to I'm like, don't know how to use smartphones. I'm trying to get back to our stream here. We're not getting any questions from the audience. I think maybe they didn't watch Heartbeeps.
Well, that's just a crying.
Well, I'm thinking. And this sneaking suspicion. Is it sneaking suspicion or sinking? Sneaking?
Well, I mean, Andy Kaufman said he probably read the joke, but he was apparently on Letterman, and he said he was going to refund the money of anyone who paid to watch Heartbeeps, and Letterman is like, I hope you have change for a 20. It's like, so
that's a great zing. Yeah. Why couldn't Dave Letterman just show up on camera for a scene? That's a better joke than anything you find in this movie.
I mean, he would have been a better stand-up robot, maybe.
Yeah, he would.
Yeah.
Okay, so What We Do in the Shadows. Start Halloween season now, or don't. Watch whatever you want to watch, but skip Heartbeeps unless you're really desperate. But what I alluded to earlier, if you plan on watching this and you have something else you're doing, this is fun. Not fun. It's a movie that should just stay in the background while you're doing something else, I think. Don't devote all of your attention.
Hey, I know it's bad. I was watching it alone. And I do not recommend just sitting on your laptop and watching it alone.
I mean, I would like to be someone that can appreciate film, and me recommending someone else to do something else with their eyes or their hands while the movie's in the background. That's just me understanding how humans work, and I feel sorry for anyone that is really. No, it just makes me sound like a snob. I don't see how you can appreciate this in earnest, just sitting there watching it, other than out of a curiosity and a relic of its comedic era.
Yeah.
You know what? Watch it. If you think I'm wrong, watch the movie and make a comment here in the video. of why you think Heartbeeps is more redeeming than what we're giving it credit for, I guess.
I agree.
Okay, Mason. I think we've run out of steam. Steam
I think
talking about
I
Heartbeeps.
think you're right, man.
I don't think we had much steam going in, but we had to just
I try, man. It's,
kind of empty our brain. Well, it just this movie didn't really. I don't hate it. I was just really disappointed. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
yes.
It just doesn't even try. Not only does it not really fail, it doesn't even try to do anything. So it doesn't succeed at all. But I don't know if it fails. Yeah, does it make sense? We're rambling, talking aloud. Please check us out on Hoopla. Go to www.edwardsvillelibrary.org. And the blue ribbon down the middle where it says ebooks and more. If you click there, you'll find Hoopla and the menu of items there. You can do audiobooks. You can get the app on your phone. There's tons of comic books, ebooks, movies, episodes of TV shows. There's tons of British TV series that have been added on there in the last year or so. Anyway, Mason, thank you for taking this trip, for diving deep into this pop culture oddity. I hope to have a better reason to get you on here next time. Maybe I'll let you pick it. So sorry and thank you. But yeah, I think you're like me. The curiosity is enough to where you're grateful you watched it, because if you hadn't, you'd always be wondering. You'd always have that curiosity kind of just like, burrowing into your skin.
Yeah.
So we did it.
We did it.
Yes, it's Friday. If you don't have to work on Saturday or Sunday, hope you have a good weekend.
Yes,
Otherwise, keep yourself safe. Mason and I will go back to work in our masks here. So if you come to the library to see us, please wear your mask. It is required. And we are enforcing that rule. So in the meantime, we're open. Come on in. If you don't feel safe enough to be in here around us, we're doing curbside, because I totally understand that. So curbside service is going. You can call us. You can check us out online. You can email us. You can even text us on Facebook. If you're watching this down on Facebook, send us a message and say, I want this book or that. Or I want to request the DVD. I want to request the Blu-ray for Heartbeeps. Give me the Criterion Collection for Heartbeeps. And we'll say, okay, we'll meet you halfway on that one. There is a Blu-ray. Criterion didn't do it. Anyway.
There's a Blu-ray Criterion of this?
One day.
One day.
Right? If enough people write letters, Criterion will cave. But Good Burger's got to come first. So
I'd watch that one.
Yeah. All right, Mason. Thank you very much. Thank you for anyone that's still watching this with us. Please recommend us something else that you'd like us to just dive into on Hoopla, because clearly we have a glutton for punishment, in a film sense, that is. All right, Mason. Have a good weekend. Thank you again. All right, take care, everybody.